Hello, welcome to part 1 of our Lars Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.2. This first part will be essential tools, which will include essential moves, grabs, punishers, and basic combos. In part 2, we'll talk about common game plan elements and recommend some players to watch, as well as cap it off with a quick summary. For beginners, note the resource links in the video description below. I've included several you should check out. Be sure to at least learn notation so that you can follow along easier. Enough of that, let's talk about everyone's favorite low tier character, #BuffLars. As always, we'll save stances for part 2, which for Lars will be silent and dynamic entry. Note that both of Lars's rage drives are from these stances, so we'll save those for part 2 as well. Frame-wise, Lars's jabs are fairly standard, but he is a character with solid range and tracking on his jabs. He also has the nasty 1-1-1 string, which is a counter hit combo string that will knock down splat, so you'll see it a lot in setups. The second hit is a safe mid, so 1-1 is also just a really useful high mid poke string. 2-1 is also a safe high mid with two enders, one being a safe high knockdown splatter, the other being an unsafe mid counter hit launcher that can also knock down splat on normal hit. Both of those enders are guaranteed if the second hit connects counter hit, and you also have 1-4, a little cheesy high-low you can use on occasion. So there's lots of string versatility with his jabs. Forward 1-2 is an I-13 string, yet another safe high mid poke option. It will automatically go into send unless you hold back. The transition is not safe, so be aware of that. You also have a third mid hit for more cover, a similar move to the ender of 2-1-3. It too will auto transition, this time to DE, and again you can stop it by holding back. Good to use as a rangy little poke string, but also to do some stance mind games. Forward 1+2 is an I-15 mid launcher, -13 on block. This is often used as your go-to quick mid launch punish, since his only hop kick like move is up forward 3, which is a tad slower and much riskier. Down forward 1 is a safe I-13 mid poke. For the most part, it acts like a generic down forward 1, although his has a pretty favorable hitbox, so it's a really good poke and something you'll use a lot. Speaking of quick mid launchers, down forward 2-1 is an I-16 mid launcher. It's a unique string in that the two hits work in tandem to launch. The first hit floats just long enough for the second hit to tailspin. Down forward 2 alone is an okay poke, as it is safe and +3 on hit. The second hit is risky at -14, but it will knock down splat on its own, so you can still use it against people mashing or ducking against down forward 2, particularly at the wall. But down forward 2-1 is also a lot easier to do than forward 1+2 from a dash, so if you want to make the big read that someone is going to duck, this can be good for that. Down forward 3 alone is a safe I-16 rangy mid poke, however it's usually used for the DE transition, which is +6 on hit, or for down forward 3-3, which is a counter hit combo. Down forward 3-3 is -15 on block, but he does fly backwards a fair bit, so pay attention to how your opponent is punishing it. Otherwise, it's typically used as a wall threat since it'll splat. Down forward 4 is a safe rangy I-15 mid poke, close to a generic down forward 4, but what it lacks in speed it makes up in range. Just a nice, simple little tool. Down forward 1+2 is an I-25 mid power crush, a bit on the slow side, but only -12, which isn't bad for a power crush, and it gives a slam on hit for a free stomp, so the reward is decent enough. It's also his only power crush from neutral, which is why it's noteworthy. Down 2 is an I-18 power mid, massive +8 on hit, but also 0 on block and forces crouch in both instances, so very useful for setups. You can also hold down to stay in full crouch yourself if you want. Gives a slam on counter hit for a free ground hit, so overall a very strong move. Ye old toe kick, I-12 high crushing low poke with great tracking, -12 on block but -2 on hit, which is still fine for setups. As usual, toe kicks are great for controlling space and pace, so use often. A versatile low string, down back 1-3 is a high crushing I-17 low high natural combo, -1 on hit, or you can hold down, making him spin around and recover in full crouch at +1. Down back 1 alone also ends full crouch, and at -1 isn't bad as a low poke setup tool. Down back 1-3 is considerably risky since it can be ducked, and at best is -10 if you do down back 1-3 down, otherwise it's -12, so keep that in mind. Still very good as an unseeable low string. Down back 2-1 is a safe I-15 mid poke combo, +6 on hit, or you can do down back 1 forward to go to send. Down back 2-3 does exist, but it's mostly there as a skill check since the reward is limited unless you do the full hold version, which can be easily stepped or counter hit on reaction. Down back 4 is an I-21 high crushing power low, very unsafe on block, but +5 on hit, has really good range, decent tracking, and juggles on counter hit. It's a little slow, but does just about everything else you would want a low to do, which is why you'll see it a lot. Down back 1+2 is an I-26 sway back mid, very risky on block, but +5 on hit and a counter hit launcher. Nothing to spam, but can be really good in the clutch. Back 1 is an I-15 mid homing attack, +4 on hit, knockdown splat on counter hit. It is safe on block, but you absolutely lose your turn at -9, still an incredibly good move. Back 2 is a safe I-16 mid poke with 2 natural combo enders, back 2-1 being the unsafe mid-mid, back 2-3 being the safe mid-high. Back 2-1 is only -10, but it can also be confirmed on hit, so you don't have to commit, but that second hit is a counter hit launcher, so the delay can help you score some counter hit juggles. Back 2-3 can't be delayed, but it'll knock down splat on normal hit, which can be very scary against people ducking at the wall. Back 3-4 is a safe I-17 mid-high natural combo, knockdown splat on hit, really good as a long-range punisher, just be aware of the duck risk on block. Back 3 is sadly -12 on block, so not a great poke by itself, but you can go to send from it, which at +11 is solid, although at -5 on block, you open yourself up a bit with that as well. Back 4 is a safe I-15 power mid, +8 on hit, and on counter hit goes into a hit throw for basically combo damage. Really terrible whiff recovery, but otherwise a simple, effective setup tool that you'll see quite a bit. Mentioned earlier, up forward 3 is your go-to panic launcher, incredibly risky at -26, but it's quick at I-16 and will crush both highs and lows. It's also a knee, so it'll beat standard parries. Don't abuse it, but definitely let your opponent know it's there so they don't get too comfortable. Up forward 4 is a safe I-24 low crushing mid launcher. Lars's orbital has a lot more range than most, but orbitals are amazing tools, so you'll be using this often. Your biggest issue here is tracking, so be aware of that. Forward 4-3 is your risky I-21 power low combo, essentially a hell sweep, so this is what you'll really scare opponents with. It tracks to the right, but the forward input can help you realign both ways, which is true for all his forward moves. Forward 2 is your true mix-up option to forward 4-3. It's the same speed, same forward input, but a mid launcher. -13, so there is risk, but if your opponent is really good with their defensive timing on forward 4, use forward 2. Also a good whiff punisher on approach. Forward 3+4 is another chunky low combo option, still risky at -16, but more range and a little more speed than forward 4-3. Forward 1+2 is a safe quick power mid, knockdown splat on hit, counter hit launch, and excellent range. Can be stepped, but tracks well to the right and has a fat hitbox in general, so just make sure to space it well and mix up your forward timing, and you shouldn't have a problem with that. Bad whiff recovery, but absolutely one of your best moves. Forward back 2-1 is an I-14 mid launcher, very punishable on block, so reserve this for punishing, but worth noting as an alternative to forward 1+2 or up forward 3 since it's faster and far more range than both of those. Running 3 is an I-20 power mid, knockdown splat on hit, and a huge active window, minimum +8 on block. Looks a little funky, but otherwise operates just like a generic running 3, so excellent pressure tool. We'll talk a bit more about application in part 2, but for now, note that Lars has somewhat of a full kit with his full crouch while standing moves. Full crouch down forward 1+2 is your main low, unseeable at I-18, decent damage, +1 on hit, and only -12 on block. You have your safe I-11 mid check in while standing 4, a versatile safe mid poke in while standing 2 that can go to either stance and has a second hit for cover, which can launch on counter hit. You also have an I-15 mid launcher in while standing 1, a safe I-15 counter hit tool in full crouch down forward 2, and a pressure tool in while standing 3, which is +7 on block, knockdown splat on hit, although it is a high. You won't spend all your time in full crouch or anything, but you have plenty here to use, particularly with full crouch down forward 2 and full crouch down forward 1+2. Learn to do instant full crouch so you can bring these into play in the neutral without needing a transition. Sadly, not much of a grab game for Lars. He has 2 command throws in up forward 1+2 and running 1+2, which can also be done as DE 2+3, but both are 1+2 breaks, although running 1+2 is a quick grab at I-11. Except for 1+3, all his other grabs can get you away from the wall somewhat on break, so they can be useful there. On hit, they can all give good okie at the wall. Otherwise, the best you'll likely get in the open is a quick running mix-up, except for 1+3, which gives some decent close range range Oki. Still, it's tough to land grabs since he has no true 1 or 2 breaks, but try to be unorthodox with your timing and maybe you can sneak one through. This brings us to the end of part 1. You should now know all the basic tools that you need to get started with Lars and start playing some matches. In part 2, we'll talk more about other aspects of his game plan to help put it all together. Expect that here in a couple of days. And with that, thanks for checking out this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications here on YouTube so that you get alerted when a new video drops. Twitch and Twitter links are also down below. Lastly, huge thank you to our patrons. The more support we have, the more resources we can devote to channel content. So again, I can't thank everyone enough for considering supporting the Patreon. Stay safe everyone, and we'll catch you next time.